Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Fierce Voices Ignite Young Women Making Media. My name is Lily Canaan Reynolds, and I'm a board member of Women Transforming Cities.
And I'm Tanya Errett, and I'm a contributing editor at Rabble.ca.
We acknowledge the unceded Coast Salish lands, which we are now on, cared for by the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples since time immemorial. On behalf of Women Transforming Cities and Rabble.ca, we are very happy to be here with you today to engage in dialogue together about young urban women making media. Our organization, Women Transforming Cities, brings inclusive feminist practices dedicated to transforming cities into places where women and girls are seen, safe, heard, and can fully participate in all aspects of city life. Women Transforming Cities has organized 25 dialogue cafe events over the past few years in Metro Vancouver, and we have focused on key issues for urban women and girls that we included in our Hot Pink Paper municipal election campaign that many of you may know about. And the Hot Pink Paper is up on our website, so you can check it out there. We also are pleased to say that we've recently announced the 2015 Wise Practices Awards that recognize outstanding practices around the world in making cities better for women and girls. Check out the call for nominations, which is also on our website. Hold on. We'd also like to invite you to an upcoming 26th cafe. The title of the cafe is Women Transforming Cities Locally and Globally. It's going to take place on Monday, July 6th at 6:30 in the evening, and it will be out the Roundhouse Community Center in Yaletown. I'd also like to acknowledge Member of Parliament Libby Davies is here joining us today. Thank you.
Rabble.ca is committed to Canadian-based news, analysis, and comment from a progressive perspective. It was launched in 2001 and was built on the efforts of progressive journalists, writers, artists, and activists all across the country, including a diverse range of strong feminist voices and figures. This event came about from a discussion between Women Transforming Cities and Rabble.ca about the need to see more women involved, included, and creating their own space in media. Fierce Voices has shared desire to see more and stronger women in media, hear more women's stories, and have more women involved in the tasks of media production. A key piece of that change is the development of on-the-ground skills and capacity building. It focuses on both analyzing representation in media and building capacity for women to create their own voices and medium platforms. The events aim to especially highlight marginalized voices, voices that are silenced in mainstream media. We are honored to have very wise and passionate speakers here in the room who will be introduced in a moment by our MC for the day, Audrey Romila. And now I'll introduce Audrey. Audrey is a young and dynamic community organizer. She is a youth settlement worker and marketing for employment services, especially specializing in services for survivors of abuse. Audrey knows personally the challenges and hardships that young women in Vancouver face every day. To Audrey, giving voice to the vulnerable and empowering youth is the greatest way for us to make a difference in our community.
So just as we welcome her, on behalf of Women Transforming Cities and Rabble.ca, again, we really welcome you to Fierce Voices. We thank you so much for coming, and we're looking forward to sharing this afternoon with you. So now let's give a hand of applause for Audrey.
Thank you so much for that awesome introduction. Okay, so how's everybody feeling today? You guys are there, right? All right. So as they mentioned, my name is Audrey. I'm very honored to be emceeing the event today. This is my first time in the room. I've actually only seen pictures of it. So raise your hand if it's your first time in here. Oh, look at that. And raise your hand if it's not going to be your last time in here. That's what I'm talking about, right? So if you, as you know, we are being live streamed right now. And so the screen up there, if you haven't logged into the Wi-Fi password yet, it's up there. So, save data. Wi-Fi is free. And right now, you guys are all being good and not on your phones, but this is kind of a little bit of a different event. So if you're not already, if I can get you guys to take out your phones, and if you have Twitter or if you're on Facebook, I want you guys to add the Twitter handle for Women Transforming Cities. So it's actually just Women T Cities. So everybody got that? And then, as they mentioned too, it's being live streamed. So if anybody isn't here that you know that they'd be interested in the topic, please retweet them and let them know the live stream, as well as hashtag is the Fierce Voices. So again, that's how people online and all over the world and across Canada will be able to follow this event for today. And so again, we're formal, but we're informal, and I can just feel the energy, and it's gonna be like a great day today. So another housekeeping thing too, since you have your phones out, is that it has to be on vibrate. Oh no, sorry, silent. Vibrate won't work, because if it's on the table, you'll hear it, okay? So make sure your phones are on silent, as well as you guys each have a mic. And so the power in a mic, when it's on, is very powerful. The only thing is that they can only be on 6 at a time, and I was totally gonna get you guys to turn on all the mics at the same time, but we don't wanna blow like the system or anything. So what I'm gonna get Kim to do actually, Kim Mortal, can you just press that on button? Just the one that says to speak, the other one. No, just right underneath your mic. Yeah, that's the only mic, that's the only button you should be pressing, and then when your mic is on, the light will come on, right? So you can turn it off right now. So the thing is, before you press that button, you gotta like raise your hand. So again, a little formal, because we don't want you guys all wanting to speak at the same time and all that stuff, so we wanna be respectful. So today, thanks to our partners, SFU's Van City of Community Engagement, we are in no better place for a dialogue than the Walk Center. Each one of us in the seat have a mic, as I mentioned. After we hear from our speakers, we would have a moderator a discussion as noted in our program. To speak, I just said, wait to be acknowledged. And again, the people who have beads on, they are the Women Transforming event organizers. So if you have any questions or any concerns, please go up to them. Can any of the beads just raise their hand where they are right now? Yeah, so they're over there. They got beads. They have answers, okay? Again, washrooms are downstairs to the right as well. So if you guys need to go, you gotta go. We hope this event proves to be a great opportunity for young women and their allies to learn about the role they can play in making media more representative of their views and needs and transforming the local media landscapes into a more diverse and inclusive space. So I'd like to invite our First Nations address that we'll be presenting. From Musqueam First Nation, CHRISTIE Lee Charles, aka Miss CHRISTIE Lee, is a direct descendant of the great warrior Capilano. CHRISTIE raps in her indigenous Musqueam dialect with a passion to empower Aboriginal youth to be proud of their roots. She's also a member of Vancouver's First Lady crew, an all-female hip-hop crew of strong women with positive voices. So without further ado, let's welcome CHRISTIE Lee.
Aitan Skolwen Kutni Kutnama Haita Ka to Konkomslini Mita Kuiname to Lelam Tanashwaya. Aitan Skolwen, Mihai Tanashkos Kunita Makan. Wow. Greetings, my honored and respected friends. My name is Christy Charles and I come from Musqueam. My ancestral name is Skaklia, and I'm a direct descendant, as our beautiful host said, of the great warrior Kayapalano. My great-great-grandfather, Welsimoktuk, was the first documented citizen of the city of Vancouver, and he's the one who met the Spanish explorers here at Point Grey. I come from these lands, and I welcome you. I welcome you with an open heart and an open mind, and it's so powerful to be sitting in a room in this formation with such fierce women. So I can't wait to hear what's going to happen today, and I'm going to share some of what I do with you. We're all gifted. Within our community, we're all taught that we have these beautiful and powerful gifts. Weavers, hunters, gatherers, storytellers, doctors, people who carry our medicine. people who carry our ceremonies. And today, I'm going to share with you my story and how I continue on our traditional, oral traditions. So first, I'm going to do just a little spoken word, I guess. I came falling from these skies, wrapped in clouds. I'm going to say this loud because I am so proud to come from these lands full of silver sands. People not from here need to understand how hard it is to live in the corner of the city, realizing it is oh so gritty when it used to be so damn pretty. My name is CHRISTIE Lee, but apparently they have me down as 550088701. Yeah, 550088701. Now here's the fun part, because this earth beat is my heart, and my ancestors, we ain't too far apart. This is just a start, because fish and rice equals 3 blind mice. 1, 2, 3 centuries, high quality, we live beautifully. Dialect fluently. Just to think that's a piece of me. 3 different tongues, but only 1 set of lungs. Pieces from my flesh I took from my arm. One warm and sunny day, that's just my way. Long car rides and long strides, I walk this concrete. Feel the vibes through my feet, moan and groan in my sleep. Visions and illusions, take a stretch from head to toe, and let the blood flow when the tension goes back to the clouds. Without a doubt, I'ma say this loud because I am so proud. Awatanassisi, Iten staan meeg te wel moksiem, yeah, Iten staan meeg te wel moksiem. See, I am not afraid, yes, I am not afraid. I'm a warrior for my people, I'm a warrior for my people. So for the next 2 pieces I'm going to share with you, they have accompaniment. Is this the mic? But I'm just going to rock it right here? All right. Okay. Okay, so can we play the first track, please? So this is a song that I wrote to call out to everybody from all walks of life to stand up and be the change and use your power. Can we turn it up a little bit, please? Yeah. My people of the sea, yeah, it's time to be free. My people of the sky, yo, it's time to fly. My people of these mountains, no more days we're counting. My people of the grass, yeah, the time is past. My people of the sea, yo, it's time to be free. My people of the sky, yo, it's time to fly. My people of these mountains, no more days we're counting. My people of the grass, yeah, the time is past. Listen to what I have to say, because I'm here to say, ain't no pipelines laying down, not in my day. I ain't having that, no way. This here's my life, I'm here to set this right. You brought the darkness, now I bring the light, cause I shine so bright. Hold on tight, I'ma take you for a ride of your life. This is just what we do, this is how we keep it true. Yeah, I do this for me, yeah, I do this for you. Yo, my people of the sea, it's time to be free. My people of the sky, yo, it's time to fly. My people of these mountains, no more days we're counting. My people of the grass, yeah, the time is past. Yeah, the time is past. Yeah, my people of the sea, it's time to be free. My people of the sky, yo, it's time to fly. Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is just how we do. Check this out. I come from this land. I can go to any land and be like, yo, this is just who I am. And they raise their hands and be like, oh, see, yeah, because they understand that's just who I am. They like, yo, I know this girl, yeah, I know her whole world, yo, that's my teachings. This is how I'm reaching, that's the sinew in me. This is how I live free, because we come from the highest quality. Oh no. Yeah, my people of the sea, it's time to be free. My people of the sky, yo, it's time to fly. My people of these mountains, no more days we're counting. My people of the grass, yeah, the time is past. Yeah, the time is past. My people of the sea, it's time to be free. My people of the sky, yo, it's time to fly. My people of these mountains, no more days we're counting. My people of the grass, yeah, the time is past. Yeah, the time is past. that's what I have. Thank you. So I'm going to share one more song with you. It's a short one, but it's about blankets. You know, I come from Coast Salish culture, and here we don't value, you know, dollars. We value gifts from the land, from the earth. And one of the things that showed our status in our community is how many beautiful blankets we could stack up. And the women, the very strong women in our communities, were the ones who wove these beautiful blankets. And we had to know math and science way before it was even invented to create these beautiful smokwa, these beautiful blankets. And you know, the dyes and the beautiful shapes, and it's just amazing. And we have women who still continue those traditions today. And that's why I'm wearing this piece on my chin here. It's a spindle whorl to represent my connection to weaving and to the land. Oh, thank you. And check. It represents my connection to the land, and it also represents status. So a lot of people, you might hear people from this area say OCM, Haichka CM, when they're speaking. And today we use it as an acknowledgement. Thank you out of respect, to honor someone. But traditionally, CM means someone from a high-born status. They're born into a high-ranking family. And that's how we would show this, was by labret piercings. And archaeological evidence from here in Vancouver at Cessnock, 70th and Granville, dates us back that far that we wore these beautiful pieces. Another way that we showed our CM is we'd flatten our children's heads when they were small with cedar boards, so they'd have this prominent forehead. So that's just a little bit of my history and my culture, and this song is about blankets, and it's to honor all the beautiful women. Thank you. Can we turn up the beat a little bit? It's a dancey one. Oh yeah. Let's dance and move. Let's dance. Dance and toss it all around. Dance, you will hit it, clear the ground. Dance, yeah, move it up and down. Earthquake, feel the sound. It's a shake down. Dance and toss it all around. Dance, you will hit it, clear the ground. Dance, yeah, move it up and down. Earthquake, feel the sound. Toss it all around and throw it down. Yo, we hit it to the ground. Boom, boom, feel the sound. All the way from the peak where I speak, right down to where the water leaks. I flow from these here medicine creeks. Fresh and cold, all the biddies I hold. Lose control, at the same time feel your soul. This is ancient, yo, these are ancient flows. Geometric rows, math and science we got to know. Build us up strong and we flourish. Build us up strong and we are nourished. Oh yeah, so we celebrate, so we dance. Dance and toss it all around. Dance, you will hit it, clear the ground. Dance, yeah, move it up and down. Earthquake, feel the sound. Dance and toss it all around. Dance, you will hit it, clear the ground. Dance, yeah, move it up and down. Earthquake, feel the sound. It's a shake down. All right. Listen to what I say, it all means the same thing. From the same circle, same ring, we all do the same thing. Different songs we sing, yo, light it up, step it up. Culture shock, yeah, weaving in and out, what I'm talking about. Yeah, weaving in and out, what it's all about. Yo, word of mouth, like way down south. Weaving in and out, what it's all about. Toss them blankets out. Welch my, toss them blankets out. Toss them blankets out. That's what it's all about. Oh yeah, dance and toss it all around. Dance, you will hit it, clear the ground. Dance, yeah, move it up and down. Earthquake, feel the sound. Oh yeah. Welch my, toss them blankets out. What I'm talking about, like way down south, yeah, word of mouth. Dance and toss it all around. Dance, yeah, we hit it, clear the ground. Dance, yeah, move it up and down. Earthquake, feel the sound. It's a shake down. Oh yeah. Alright. Hi Tabka, Nasiyam Nasiyaya. Hi Tabka, Tukwam Shalini. Hi Tabka. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. See, you're not gonna see another First Nations address like that. You know what I'm saying? Only at Women Transforming Cities. That's what I'm talking about. So, you know what? Again, tweet your friends, text your friends, let them know what the event that they're missing right now, because they'll be able to catch some of the other performers that are going to be here today. So we're going to be starting off with our keynote speakers. We have two, so I'll introduce our first one. Her name is Romila Barryman. She's the editor-in-chief of Textbook. Textbook is a publication that covers entrepreneurship. There is a real pain point in the lack of coverage of startups and new business types. Traditional media simply doesn't have a place where these stories can live and flourish. So to talk about that a little bit, and again, save your questions for later, because you'll be able to ask the keynotes some questions later on. And of course, you get to meet and greet with them at the breaks too. So without further ado, let's welcome Romila.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Romila Barryman, and I'm so honored to be here today, especially after an introduction like that. And I'm excited to see everyone who's seated here today. We're seated in such a beautiful venue, and I think we have a few people to thank for that. So before I start, a big thank you to everyone who made this possible. Rabble.ca, Women Transforming Cities, thank you for approaching me with this opportunity. And of course, thank you to the work of the volunteers who made this possible as well. I just want to acknowledge and echo, as was said before, what a privilege it is for me to be speaking here today about women creating their own spaces, and to what an honor that is to be doing that on unceded Coast Salish territories. And I want to ask everyone to remember that the things we do and we work on as women and as allies, and the intersectionalities we individually come with, is not progress at all if we don't do it with the solidarity with the people of this land. Before society told me that I was a woman, I decided that I was a storyteller. I decided I wanted to spend my life in front of the camera, behind the microphone. I wanted to live in the front pages inside of all of those stories that others took the time to share with me. In elementary school, when my parents sent me to go to the market to get vegetables, and they'd let me keep the change, I saved up until I had enough to use a small local printer. And the first story I ever printed was tiny. It was 6 pages long, and it was mostly filled up with Microsoft Word clip images. And it followed the adventures of 2 girls and a classroom mystery. And I sold it for 5 rupees each. And it wasn't the money. I don't even remember how much I made or if I ever spent the money that I made from it, but I just wanted to see if I could do it. If someone would buy it, first of all, and then if they would read it afterwards. I sold 10 copies, and I told myself after that I could do anything. You got this, Romila. The world doesn't even know what's coming. In high school, I walked up to the principal's office, and I informed them. The classrooms were not listening to morning announcements. The messages were not engaging. The voice was monotonous. And that I would be doing morning announcements from now on. Thank you very much. I butchered the names of high schools I had never heard of. Moving to 7 different schools, 3 of them being high schools, we'll probably do that for you. I accidentally unwed my French teacher when I called her mademoiselle instead of madame. She came up to me afterwards and asked me if I knew something about her marriage that she didn't. I didn't just make mistakes, I Shakespeared a new vocabulary of mistake-making that people didn't even know was possible. And let me tell you, I had a lot of fun doing it too. And when I was volunteering at the Indonesian consulate, I created my own title. Youth ambassador, I told them, that sounds good. I'll do all the speeches on cultures and all the speeches on history. And I even learned traditional dances when they didn't need speeches, so I could welcome ambassadors from around the world through dance. I decided I was a storyteller, and I made space of the room around me to be able to do that, even when nobody before had done the same or set the same precedents. And then I tried to start my career. At the counselor's office, after a lengthy explanation of how I wanted experience outside of high school, talent shows, and morning announcements, the person who was sitting across from me asked me if I would please speak to them in English. Broadcasting English, the English I wanted to do, was extremely different, apparently, from the English that I was used to getting by with. And when I graduated broadcast school, my instructors told me, you should attach a photo of yourself to every single resume you send out there. And I did no such thing, to which they replied to me, but how will people know you filled the diversity quota? When I got a tip on a story about a female-driven entrepreneur platform, an editor-in-chief told me that, they were just not a fan of all these female gender-related stories, and maybe I should move on and cover something else. Some of these experiences are not like the others. What changed? Is this the real world? It's not elementary or high school anymore, so this is the reality that we have to accept? This is just the way things are? Why? What's the same about Textbook, a publication I co-founded in the beginning of my 20s that talks about entrepreneurship, and the stories I shared with you earlier about my childhood? I made a story out of Microsoft Word, and I used a local printer to get an idea I had out there. I proposed myself into a public speaking position, one that was usually run by secretaries, who had much better things to do, trust me, but no other student had offered to take before. And then I created Textbook, off of the basis that other publications were regurgitating the same information and the same stories over and over and over again. What's similar? Every single one of these experiences involved the creation of a new space. Kathryn, who's one of the panelists you'll be hearing tonight, and I'm very personally excited to hear more from her too, she shared with a group of us on experiences that she had running an environmental radio show. And she turned to us and she goes, well, I guess it would be considered resistance now with the state of the government and the muzzling of scientists, but we didn't think of it like that. That wasn't our point. We just wanted to get information out there. So I want to ask, who is it that actually gets to call what we do resistance? There are stories that I share that fall outside of the white male narrative. I don't do this as an act of resistance. My reality and my observations and the observations of the stories that I get to share are simply different because of the body I live in, because of my history. The people of this land, they do not agree with the demands of corporations. That is not an act of resistance. These are people who are trying to live on their own soil. The only thing that remains of Hogan's Alley is a Jimi Hendrix memorial. And Vancouver's storytellers within the Black communities, like Wade Compton, who are trying to tell the stories, other stories of Jimmy's grandmother and Joseph Seraphim, they also have to tell stories of a time where English Bay was a white-only beach. That inadvertently highlights our history books and our school curriculum's inability to mention that. That is not an act of resistance. We are simply trying to live in a space that was not built for us in mind. And because of that, our very existence contends with the norms of the majority around us. So when our mere existence is a form of resistance, what can you say about the freedom you really have? We are a people who want to have the ability to talk to a government who is supposed to be working for us and in our favor. And when we cannot do that, and we are forced to then resort to demand change through protest, that is not resistance. We are simply people who are trying to enact the democratic rights that we claim to have in this country. When we have these spaces that have been built without us in mind, it's not surprising when we find that the places of work we try to enter, education, or even leisure, they're not only ill-suited for us, but sometimes they can't even evolve to accommodate to us at all. And that's what I want to talk to you guys about here today, is this creation of new space and new platforms. That's where that comes in. This is the catalyst for change in a time where dialogue is key. It's new and independent media that will have the ability to withhold these new stories and these new dialogues, now more than ever. A year ago, I started Textbook, my own publication. But a few years before that, my first step was starting a blog. You don't have to start big. You don't have to go viral. Your space can be so small. Your space can be a tweet. It can be so small, especially when you compare it to other corporations or other businesses or other platforms. But that's not the point. It's not the size that's the point. Because your words, if they are your truths, they are history. And that is so big. Your words could be one person's entire world or one community's entire reality. As a journalist in the tech industry, I have a wealth of newer resources and publications to look through for information. But I don't switch on the news anymore when I look for current events. I go to Twitter, I look on Tumblr, because I trust the voices of the people who are on the ground. That's the state of our generation today, and that's why voices are so important. And now, in a time where our voices are at risk, at a time where Bill C-51 deems even art as a potential form of illegal protest, we need that plethora of voices now more than ever. Without independent media and the individual voices of those on social media or on blogs, we face a reality where we only have partial truths from a vocal majority. And then we face a present where our realities and our histories have missing voices, with only a memorial as a faint reminder of an entire community that used to stand, and a park where an entire nation of people used to live. Naveen Gurn, a historian and a friend of mine, he's keeping storytelling alive in South Asian communities and here in Vancouver. And he told me, if you have an untraceable lineage in Canada, if you've been displaced by slavery or immigration, your best bet is to look through historical criminal records and hope to God your ancestors committed a crime, because that is the only way they would have been documented somewhere on public record. So without independent media and the individual voices of those on social media and on blogs, we face a reality where our history is only being told by the privileged. And the rest of us, well, we better hope to God we make it on those criminal records. When you open up that blog and you type in a blog post, or you submit that article, or you tweet, you don't know it, but you're recording history. And those truths that you share, that is the public record that your great-grandchildren, that classrooms, that historians, and people outside of Vancouver, people outside of Canada can even look through. So before society told me that I was a woman, and then a person of color, and then an activist, somehow that also came in, I decided I was a storyteller. I decided I wanted to spend my life in front of the camera, behind the microphone. I wanted to live in the front pages, housed inside all of those stories that others took the time to share with me. And today, I want to invite every one of you to take in the stories and the truths and the histories that are being told by the people on stage today, and to leave here as storytellers as well. And I encourage you to leave today and create a space that works for you. And I'd like to thank you, because by participating here today, by engaging in this dialogue and most importantly, by listening. This space that you're in right now, it's not just one that you're taking part in. This is something that you've created too. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Romila, for sharing your stories with us. Kind of got somber in here and a little calm, and just kind of looking around the room, everybody's eyes were really just engaged and everything. Her speaking about space, it's just amazing, and I want to take this time to acknowledge one of our community partners, the SFU, and a big shout out to Am-Johal, actually, for really being a connector for women transforming cities. You want to just raise your hand so we can know who other organizations can collaborate with? I've actually known Am-Johal for a long time. I have to give him a buzz because we worked with Rock the Boat back in my Langara Student Union days, so we got to reconnect there. So without further ado, we do have our second keynote speaker, all the way from the T.O, Anne Theriault, as she told me to kind of say it. It was kind of like, yeah, Anne Theriault. Yeah, she's from T.O. She's a blogger and a freelance writer at the Belle Jar blog from Ontario, as we said. So I'm just going to say her little bio straight from her blog, like literally. A short list of things I love: my son, my dude I'm married to, books, summer dresses, shiny hair, banjo music, my sisters, feminism, Sylvia Plath, dusty record stores, yoga, rainy summer evenings, welcome to Vancouver, coming of age movies, Frida Kahlo, history, forest animals, Wes Anderson, nostalgia, being pretentious as beep. I'm not gonna say the word. So let's give a warm Vancouver welcome to Anne.
So thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be here. You have a beautiful city. I keep telling people it's not fair. You shouldn't get mountains and ocean. Like, you shouldn't be able to have both at the same time. They should be mutually exclusive. I don't understand how it's so pretty here. I've never been to Vancouver before. Thank you so much to Rabble.ca and Women Transforming Cities for inviting me. And, again, acknowledgement that this is all happening on unceded Coast Salish territory. I hope I said that the right way. Thank you. It's really amazing to be here. So I want to talk a little bit with you guys about women taking up space and women showing up for each other, which I think is pretty timely right now. There's kind of a larger discussion happening within feminism of who gets to take up space and who gets to be a feminist, like as if there's some arbiter of feminism who gets to be like, you're in, you're out, you're in, you're out. I mean, we laugh, but we all have seen it happen. I think I'm so excited to see so many young people here because I feel like one thing I often hear from kind of older feminists is like, where are all the young feminists at? And it's like, we're on the fucking internet. That's where we are. I'm sorry, I can't promise to keep swears out of my speech. I lived on the East Coast for a long time, and swearing is like a dialect there, so just think of it more like punctuation than anything else. We're on the internet, and we're here, and we're coming together, and this is so exciting. And what is amazing about the internet is that it gives us the chance, like Romila was saying, it gives us the chance to have a platform. We can kind of take the reins on our own narrative and exist in our own space and have our own voices. And there's this really great article by a woman named Sarah Robinson on Alternet about birth control. And one of the things she says in it is she says, the internet is an all levels, all sectors disruption on the scale of the printing press. So we are seeing media change in our lifetimes. We are seeing how it gets dispersed changed. We're seeing who gets a platform change. And I think sometimes in the middle of it, we don't understand how huge it is, but it is huge. And one of the things that she points out in her article is that it was 300 years from the creation of Gutenberg's printing press until the Age of Enlightenment. So, you know, when we kind of feel frustrated and like, oh my God, why is this revolution taking so long? Just keep in mind, we're playing the long game here. 300 years, you know, we're in the middle of it right now. We are seeing those changes happening. We see that disruption. And we see kind of the panic in traditional media sources as they realize they don't own it anymore. They don't get to tell us what the truth is or how to feel or how to think. We see on Twitter, we see people on the ground in Ferguson telling us what is happening, telling us it's not riots, these are protests. These are people who are, you know, standing up against an oppressive force. And we finally all get to see the truth through people's eyes, and that is huge. And so I'm super excited that that is a thing that I get to witness in my lifetime. You know, I kind of came of age with the internet. So this is, I don't know if you'd call me a digital native. I might be just a little bit too old for that, but it's something that I've grown up with. But one interesting thing about the internet is being an outspoken woman on the internet is like going down a rabbit hole. You see the world in a completely different way. You know, I grew up with these very lovely socialist parents who said, you know, gender equality, racial equality, like this is all great, nobody is better than anybody else, we're all, you know, we're all humans, we're all wonderful, whatever, you're a girl, you can do whatever you want, you can not be president because we don't have a president, but you can be prime minister. And it was interesting. I started a blog in 2012, the Belle Jar, and the more I spoke about women's issues, feminism, whatever, the more I realized how crucial it was to be there, to be taking up this space, because the more hate was leveled at me. So, you know, the more I would say, like, gosh, things are kind of shitty for women, you know, here's some sexual assault stats or whatever, the more men would be like, I wish you were dead. So it just kind of convinced me even more to be a feminist. And I think the most powerful, one of the most powerful things about the internet is the way that it gives women the chance to show up for each other and create a feminist community online, and that has been huge for me, especially in the light of harassment that we've seen. You know, women being driven out of their houses because their personal information is being shared online and people are leveling threats against them. And I'm going to share with you a little bit of my own story, which was that earlier this year I wrote an article for Vice, and I spoke about I said we should call harassment of women, online harassment of women, what it is, that it's a form of terrorism, it's gender terrorism. It's, if you think of like the textbook definition of terrorism, it's using violence or threats of violence to coerce something into doing what you want. And harassment of women online, the end goal is to get women to shut up. And so I made this argument, and the response was really intense, including there were a lot of threats made against me, and then people started making threats against my son. I have a 4-year-old, and people made really violent threats against my kid, who doesn't even know what the internet is. And had it not been for the online feminist community, I don't know what I would have done. Had I not had the support of people on Twitter saying, like, this is fucked, this is, you know, this is, you should not have to endure this is terrible, like, tweeting, you know, kind of screen caps of what people were saying and just disseminating that information, I don't know how I would have made it through. And yeah, we gotta have each other's backs is really what I want to talk about And there's that discussion lately of whose backs are we going to have, right? Because even within the feminist community, there is a supremacy. There's kind of white women at the top, and they tend to view themselves as the arbiters of the feminist community. So, we got to show up for everyone. We've got to show up for trans women, we've got to show up for women of color, we've got to show up for queer women, we've got to show up for disabled women, we've got to show up for everyone, not just the women who look like me. And I think we can build something really beautiful out of that. I've been really lucky while I've been here. I am staying in Vancouver with two women that I met through online feminism. One of them is Jara, who's sitting over there. She's super lovely. We've been doing feminist Star Trek reviews while I've been here, which really great. You should check out her Tumblr. It's Tricky Feminist. Shout out. But yeah, the internet gives us the chance to connect with each other, connect with women who live in cities far and wide, and we get to support each other. Even from thousands of miles away, we can support each other, and we have to work together. Because if there's one thing the fucking patriarchy wants, it's for women to shit on each other. Like, that is the patriarchy. Sorry, don't tweet that. Go ahead and tweet it. It's divide and conquer. They want us to hate each other, and internalized misogyny is a hell of a drug. And if we become divisive, that's how they win. And I don't mean, we've all read those garbage essays by women who are like, don't be mean on Twitter because that's being divisive. Let's all just get along. I don't mean that. I mean, we need to show up for the people who are the most marginalized. And we need to get used to call-outs, especially white people like me need to get used to being told, like, you're being racist right now, you're being transphobic, you're being whatever. And we need to, I hear people complain about call-out culture. Oh, it's so mean, people are so mean, I don't understand. And you know what, I've been called out, and in my experience, what you do is apologize, and that really goes a long way to diffusing the situation. Like, I'm always baffled when people are like, get their backs up and are like, everyone's being so mean, I'm being attacked. I don't know, just say sorry. Like, that doesn't fix it, but it goes a long way if you can just be like, you're right, I'm sorry, I'm being a crummy person right now. And that's how we show up for each other, is by kind of swallowing our pride and knowing when to say, sorry, you're right, I'm not being good. And got a little off track there, got a little excited. Yeah, I think the most radical thing women can do is take up space. And that really kind of piggybacks on what Romila said. The most radical thing we can do is own our own narratives and be out there and be unapologetic and be like, yeah, in my case, I talk a lot about mental health and my own experiences about mental health, and that has been huge for me. And I think, you know what, all of you women who are here have been told your whole lives not to take up space, to be silent, to be pretty, to apologize for existing. And I think the most challenging thing you can do, the best way you can disrupt the patriarchy, is by rejecting that and being loud and taking up space and just fucking the system. And I read a really great, there's an article I'm really obsessed with on Medium by Kylie Luce, and I think it's called Where Are All the Bad Feminists At? And in it, she says, you know what? Every time somebody says, oh, how dare she? I want to be the one to step up and say, I dare her. And that's what I really want you guys to take away from this, that every time someone makes a snide comment about a woman and says, how dare she, you be the one to step up and be like, I'm the one daring her. I dare you. And yeah, I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for having me. This is wonderful. This is a wonderful group of people. I have never seen anything like CHRISTIE Lee's performance. It was beautiful. Romila was wonderful. I'm so excited to see the other stuff that's coming up, and thank you so much for having me today.
Awesome. So we've heard from our first two keynote speakers and their fierce voices. Now I know you guys are just itching to try out your mic, and so we can hear your fierce voice. I'm going to actually invite the moderator for this. It's Jessica Noller. She is a board of directors of Women Transforming Cities as well. So do I invite you here? Are you going to stay there? Do you want to come up here, or are you going to stay there? Okay. Yeah, so you can ask, either you can direct your questions directly to one of the speakers or both. Jessica will take it from here.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for being here today. So we'll start with, we'll begin our question and answer portion of the event for the keynotes and our opener. And yeah, I guess if you want to ask a question, please raise your hand and I'll try to note who has a question, and we'll try to go in order, and you can turn your microphone on. And if you are feeling a little shy, then you can pose a question on Twitter using the hashtag #FierceVoices, and my lovely assistant Brianna will bring those questions down to me as well. So shall we get started? Does anyone have a question to kick us off?
You can even just ask what our cats are named, no pressure.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, just that speak button. There you go.
Hello. I feel like a new person doing this. I just want to thank the speakers again for your amazing viewpoints. It's been super inspiring, so thank you to everyone. A common theme that's really been brought up is just the democratizing effect of the internet, and I truly acknowledge that I do believe in the freedom and the possibilities of an open internet. I do question, however, the fact that our social inequalities offline are now being transferred online. So I definitely don't feel comfortable pegging the internet as kind of the be-all and end-all of our social problems, especially when it comes down to who owns these platforms, who's at the top running these tech companies, the laws, for example, Bill C-51, how is that affecting the open internet? Which, can really undermine marginalized voices, for example, women and women of color. So how do we go forward from here then? I don't want the conversation to end at the internet is great, especially since we've seen the online harassment that can exist. So I'm just kind of opening the floor to see what we can do next. Thank you.
Hello. Yeah, no, I really love your question, actually. I think the internet is a really interesting place because even the platforms that we use are currently big platforms that are run in a very traditional manner that we see other businesses run, and they're being led by the same people of power that we see offline, exactly as you mentioned. And so what I mean by creation of space, and I think this is where what I was mentioning in my presentation as well, is simply the fact that there are different ways to do things. Like right now we have Facebook and we have Twitter and we have Tumblr, and that's great, but there are some platforms that are
not really right for us still. There are video platforms, there are dating sites that are just unsafe for women. Uber is also a safety concern for. Why are all these things safety concerns for us? It's because they're built with this formal bias it's not a malicious, it's usually not a malicious intent to marginalize us. It's simply that they're created without us in mind, and that's the problem. And so that's what I'm encouraging, is not only utilizing these existing platforms, but going out and creating new ones. And so, like I mentioned, starting off small, starting off with a blog, starting off with a tweet, things like that. But eventually to create like new platforms and new systems that will actually disrupt. That's the whole key, is to disrupt the norms of what is online right now. And because you're right, online is simply reflecting the offline community right now. And so that's more of what I'm saying. And that will take time. That will take time, yeah.
Did you want to take that as well?
I don't know. Yeah, basically, I agree with everything you say. Just turn on my microphone to say that. Yeah, for sure. We brought our shit with us to the internet, right? I'm sorry, I can't stop swearing.
It's true.
You're all over 18, or almost, right? Like,
Not quite.
you've all
It's
heard
okay.
swear words before, presumably. Yeah, nothing is ever terra nullius. We're never starting from scratch. We always bring our own biases with us, and it's not, I think the internet has a great potential to be a disruptor, to have a democratizing effect, but for sure right now it is can be a dangerous place for women, and it is easy for me to get up there and be like, hey, get out there, ladies, do your thing, but there people genuinely can be unsafe on the internet. I think, like I said during my talk, I kind of view it as the long game. We're pretty new into the internet. We're still figuring out what it can do, what it can be used for, how we can use it. Like, when I think about when Twitter first started, it was like mostly just people being like, I like cats. Here's my dinner. But I mean, it took a while for us to figure out how to harness it as kind of a mobilizing tool. And now we've figured that out. And for sure, Twitter's not perfect. Like, it's full of assholes with like little egg faces popping up in your mentions being like, you're garbage. Actually, somebody tweeted at me the other day and was like, feminism is garbage, then replied to his own tweet and said, much like you. I thought it was like, great use of the medium. So yeah, it's not perfect, but I think we are figuring out how we use these platforms.
Of course, I'll say something. One thing that we are forgetting to do, like, especially I witness it like within my own realm of women, like within my community, is we forget to disconnect from the internet. We're so used to like, proving a point on the internet. Like, I just learned this thing and whatever. But, one thing that we talk about is we don't gather as women so much anymore because, I just wanted to comment on something that you said about how, the system divides us, divides the women against women. Try being a woman on an Indian reservation. It's like the colonizers and colonization within, it's pretty fierce. But, yeah, just table talk, sitting around the table, going out for tea instead of like going out for drinks, you know what I mean? Like sitting around and spending that quality time and connecting with like, fellow sisters within your community. And when you do use the internet, like there's one thing I talk about with like some friends of mine is like we potlatch positivity. One way to raise awareness, murdered, missing women, share. You know what I mean? Like it's just how you use your woman power, right? Like we all have this beautiful power, and that's one thing, the government and Indian residential schools never took away from our First Nations women, is we have this beautiful power within inside within us. And if we just put it out in the universe, you know, instead of like putting it out in the internet and, you know, getting all caught up in those waves, just let it be. Put it in the universe, and then, you know, it'll come to you, and you'll be like, oh, I'm going to use the internet this way today. So, yeah, that's all I can say. Thank you.
Okay, do we have another question from the audience? I can go to a Twitter question too. Let's do that. Okay, this is from the handle Melissa_Taplin. How to best address anti-feminist media trolling beyond backing, and what can be the role of male allies?
I largely ignore trolls because I find that most often and I know that's easier said than done, and I struggle with it, but largely what they want is someone to engage them, and they seem to have boundless energy and time to invest in being terrible. So my experience has been that when I engage them, often I end up regretting it because it's hard to then disengage. My kind of go-to thing now is, you know, when people are tweeting terrible things at me or leaving ridiculous comments on my blog, I'll take a screen cap and then I'll tweet that and just be like, look how terrible people still are. And, you know, that way I can kind of address it without actually engaging the person. I used to never mute or block people on Twitter, and now it's like my favorite thing. Male allies, I think the best thing male allies can do is educate other men. Like, I think the best thing they can do is run interference, and know where to direct men for resources, and take some of the kind of unpaid labor off of women who spend so much time, you know, online feminists spend so much time, like, for free explaining and teaching people. I think the best thing that men can do is to teach other men, and to also know when to take a step back and let a woman speak. And I think that also goes for white feminists as well, that they, you know, they also need to know when to take a step back, which is like a lot of the time probably, and, you know, amplify the voices of women of color.
I just wanted to add, I have not, fortunately, experienced trolling on the interwebs, but I think offline trolling culture exists for sure, through the forms of jokes and through the forms of, and then that, I think a lot of people, when they do that, and specifically I think here we're talking about men, but in general context, like when even women who internalize misogyny, like when they do that, that this is where call-out culture comes in, and this is where, like, jokes are not jokes, and these things are forms of oppression too, and I think that's really important for us to address on the spot when we see it, and to be firm in that decision, because I think it's very much easily dismissed as things as jokes, or things as, you know, I didn't mean it, you know, this was funny. Those are the very things, like, I'm not sure if anyone has had recently any blatant experiences with sexism, but I know that working in the tech industry, I don't usually walk into an office or a meeting and somebody tells me, you know, I don't think you as a woman should be working here. That's not the form of misogyny that I actually experience. It's just, you know, the fact that they won't, like little subtle things. It's the subtlety. It's what they say. It's how they address you. It's the fact that they don't ask you questions and they only, you know, ask the other male counterpart in the room. It's those little subtle things that we're fighting against. And so when someone tells you it's a little thing, it's not, you know, they don't mean it. It's a joke, whatever. It's those very things that we're trying to change. That's the very thing. And so that's what I really want to say offline. People can troll too, and it looks a lot more subtler than it is online, and I think that's really important for us to address too.
To add to that, I always say that when somebody tells a sexist or racist or homophobic joke, they're not telling a joke, they're testing the waters. And they're waiting to see your reaction to see how far can I go. Is this person gonna react? Or are they gonna agree and laugh at my joke, and can I then continue to make racist or sexist remarks? So they're not even looking for a laugh. They're looking to see, is this person gonna accept it, or are they gonna say something?
Thank you. Do we have another question from the audience? Yeah, right there.
Hello, my name's Erin. I just have a current events type question. Recently, the FHRITP phenomenon got a lot of coverage. And I just wanted to know if you think the way it was handled in the media and within our own community was really good enough, or if this topic should be used as a platform to continue fighting discrimination in that form of media and across all forms of media.
I actually started out in broadcasting. I worked for a few radio stations, and then I made the switch into tech. It was one male-dominated industry into another. But yeah, no, one of the reasons was because it was just really so difficult to be working with that space, and you don't really have, or at least I found, for my personal experience, was I found a lack of control with that medium. And so I really empathize with the women behind the camera who are being hijacked of their stories, and I think the reporter who recently, I think this is the what's it called, the moment that you're referring to, but when she called out those individuals, the sports fans, I think she was utilizing, I think she mentioned that she had to actually stop doing some stories, or she couldn't air some stories because they were so disrupted at one point that she couldn't even air her stories online anymore. And so, yeah, no, I think she did properly address it. And actually, when we were talking about trolling, this was something that I wanted to bring up too, is that there's now a form where when people call you out on the internet, you go and you find the place that they work at and actually tell their employers. That's like becoming that's how far call out culture is going, and companies are starting to respond to this and see it as a breach of their agreement as employer-employee. And so I find that is really interesting. But in terms of, is that enough? I think that's a great start. But I think I don't know why we still need to be calling people out on these things. And I think as long as we keep doing that, that's a great start. Yeah, for sure.
Do you want to say anything? I feel like I talk a lot. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of another thing, is like, should somebody be fired for what they say on the internet? And it's like, I'm definitely pro firing someone who yells that while, a female newscaster is trying to make her report. It's tricky waters, though, right? Because there was a case recently where a man was getting back at his ex-girlfriend he created fake profiles under her name and said super racist things, and she ended up getting fired. And it wasn't her, it was him. So it's tricky waters. I do think that people should be held accountable. Like, there are people on the internet under their real names saying super terrible stuff, just like profile picture on Twitter, it's not even an anime character, it's them, their real name, and I do think that there is value in alerting employers to how people are representing their company, but again, like I said, it's tricky.
It is tricky, yeah.
Okay, we're going to move on to a Twitter question from Elle-Máijá Tailfeathers. How can awesome online spaces by and for women be replicated as physical spaces in our city? How can awesome online spaces by and for women be replicated as physical spaces in our city?
There's so many ways I could answer that question, actually. And I think just creativity, I guess, would be like my answer. Because there's so many different ways we can tell our story and raise awareness. Like I know Bill C-51 is going to change, how we can use our voice, but we can get creative with how we use our voice. Like that's why I make the music I make, is because I wanted to change the mind of our young people. Because we have, this crazy corrupt messages that are out there for our young people these days. Like music videos are full of like women, totally disrespecting women, and the lyrics are totally full of disrespecting women. And that's why I started changing and putting in our stories and putting in our teachings and putting in our culture into our lyrics. Because I have kids now, and I want them to learn who we are and where we're from. Because, again, I can speak only on my experience being from my community. We have not been colonized that long. Like my father's 60 years old and he lived in the university endowment lands. He lived in the bush with, my great-grandparents who spoke our language, who, lived off the land. But nowadays, my 4-year-old daughter can pick up an iPad and play all these crazy games. And it's like there's this disconnect of, learning our culture off the land and then learning a new culture through one of these. So it's just getting creative. Like how can you take what you want to say and put it and reach the people? I guess that's the best way I can answer that.
Yeah, no, I actually want to talk about this idea of creation of space for women and by women. I think right now, it seems like the only spaces that we've already addressed, that's a lot of these spaces that, don't have the ability to hold our voices or our stories. And then when we create our own, it happens to only be for us. It happens to only be for women. And then it becomes the story of it's for women, it's about women's issues and this and this and that. We have so much more to us. We have so much more to talk about. Like, yes, we are women, but this is also something I mentioned in our presentation. That's an identity that's also thrusted upon us in a lot of ways. I don't know, but I didn't live my life thinking, how as a woman does this decision affect, like I don't really go through my life thinking like that, except for now that I've seen the roadblocks of what it means to be a woman, and now I've had to constantly think, well, as a woman, does this affect me? I don't believe that this is an identity that I've chosen myself. This is what society has thrusted upon me. And so I think that when we do create spaces, that yes, we are creating it as women, and that is our existence as women is yes, it's obvious, but honestly, like I'm interested in the stories that you have beyond that. I have the interest in the stories that you are as people. I'm so interested in what your imagination, is our imagination so colonized that we cannot think past those descriptions that people are putting on us? That's the biggest thing, and I think that's what we should be taking offline. It's what we should be starting off online and offline, and when we go offline, like those are the things that we should be talking about. Yes, we are women, but what more? What there is so much more, and those are the things that we should be talking about when we share our stories, and our identities, and our interests and our passions.
Oh, sorry, I just wanted to throw in a quick little comment. We have become so colonized that we forget which women we come from. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm a woman and I have a voice, but really, traditionally, what is my voice and what is my role within my own cultural society? You know what I mean? Like, we all come from a great line of very, very important people. Your people, every race of person comes from, like, this crazy history. And we were commenting before of, dating back and finding, if you're displaced, finding finding through criminal records. Well, within our cultural Coast Salish teachings, the reason why I stood up and said who I am and where I'm from, you know, who my grandparents were, is because my ancestors left those little seeds for me. I didn't know our marriage ceremony, and my grandfather passed away way before my time. And it wasn't until I went way up to Chase and I introduced myself, and this woman came up to me later. She's like, "Oh, I was married to a man in Musqueam before, and your grandfather married us." And she told me the whole ceremony. And I was like, oh my gosh, because I put it out in the universe and I asked, you know, who am I and where am I from and where can I find my stories? Like, even though I'm in my community with my people, I'm still displaced because, you know, everything was taken away from us. And now we're living in this new world, kind of forgetting who we are as women.
And I mean, I think we are creating women's only and women-centric spaces. We're doing it here. You know, Women in Cities is doing it. In Toronto, we have Women in Toronto Politics, you know, Women in Media. Like, we are creating things that exist both online and offline. And I also think women-centric spaces have always existed, and they tend to be the ones that we kind of denigrate, like, you know, knitting groups or God, I just had so many good ideas in my head and they're all gone. But yeah, like ladies hanging around in the kitchen talking, like the kind of stuff you make jokes about your grandmother doing, but those had power because they were women's spaces. And I think I would like to see, you know, to a certain extent, a return of that. I think women's only stuff is great. I think Girl Guides is the best. You know, people talk about, oh, like girls can join Scouts now. Great. I'm like, no, they should. I am very pro Girl Guides existing as a separate thing because you know what? You're out in the bush. It's only girls. There's no dudes to clean your latrine. There's no dudes to carry the heavy stuff. You're making it work. So, yeah, I think you know, I do agree a lot with you that we are more than just women, but I do think also women's only spaces are great, and I think we do have them, and part of our work is to take away the stigma that exists for women's spaces, women's group, women's, you know, reading clubs or whatever.
I'm just going to double check on the time. Sammy Jo, are we doing good? Okay, let's go. Okay, over there.
I actually wanted to add to the question was before, because something that it really worked for my school or how we talk of online spaces, offline, was just about creating brainstorming sessions between not just women but men and everybody, and ask what the community they are on need, and by becoming leaders, finding a mentor. Not just go to the places that already exist, but with your friends, with your family, with the people around your community, create your own space and move forward from there. And these groups that already exist will bring you the support that you need to expand your space and expand your voice. But don't wait for someone to come and say, oh, hey, how are you? Go see someone in the street, say hi yourself, and create the space and find that into your own community, because that's the way that I find it's easier to disconnect from the online platform to the offline, just by saying hi to the person sitting next to you.
Maybe we'll do one more question.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Khan. I'm a transgender Indian YouTuber, and I just want to bring it back to the question about trolling online. I've been YouTubing for 5 years throughout my entire transition, and I've gone through hordes of hate. So my question is, why would you want to take those hateful comments and just spread them? You're giving the trollers a voice. You're giving them a platform, your platform, to get what they want to say across. And you're just creating more arguments and wars and possible problems on the internet because people are going to automatically respond to that and be upset.
Well, my view is that I think that there is value in letting people know how bad it gets. Because I think a lot of people, especially like white cis-het men, are like, oh, what are you complaining about? It's not so bad being a woman on the internet, it's fine, you don't get. Which is part of the reason I use screen caps instead of, retweeting or whatever, is that then there is somewhat of a remove. So I feel like I'm not so much giving them a platform. It is for sure tricky. I feel like my goal is more to disseminate how bad the stigma against people is, because I feel like from positions of privilege, it's easy to feel like everyone navigates the world with the same ease that you do. And it's easy to ignore the hate that is hurled at people if you don't have to experience it or see it. So that's kind of my feeling. And it is for sure cathartic to me, when I'm getting piles and piles of hateful shit that I have to scroll through in my inbox, and I don't want to engage, and I don't want to engage, and I don't want to give them the time of day, I don't want to give them the satisfaction. And, personally for me, sometimes it's a lot when I'm being called vile name, and you obviously know what it's like too. It's hard. How does your core self survive that onslaught? And so, yeah, definitely for me, I think a part of self-care is being able to be like, look what these guys are saying about me. Like, do you understand that this is what people live with every day? And I, again, I'm saying this as a cis-het white woman, so take what I say with a grain of salt, because what you experience, I'm sure, is much greater than what I do. And I don't mean to invalidate what you're saying, because I think you make a really good point.
Okay, thank you so much for your questions. I think we're gonna wrap it up for now. And thanks again to our keynotes and our openers. Let's give them a round of applause one more time. And we're going to take a quick 15-minute break, and there should be some snacks, some cookies, and sorry, am I interrupting?
We have our speaker gifts.
Oh, we have some gifts.
Do you have my speaker gifts for the keynotes? Okay, I have one.
You're presenting them?
Okay, sorry.
So we just have a small token of our appreciation for CHRISTIE, for Anne, and for Romila. Thank you so much for joining us. Really very inspirational speaking.
Great. So we're coming up to our break. So we're going to let you have a 15-minute break. So this is a great time to find the washrooms if you need it, make your refills. We do have some snacks outside, as well as make sure to visit the media fair, which just to let you know who's out there, we have Young Women Civic Leaders, Media Democracy Days, BC Poverty Reduction Coalition, Co-op Radio, WAM, Women Actions Media, Megaphone Magazine, Check Your Head. And of course, our artists do have some material available as well. So you know what? This is a great time to network, to talk, to really take advantage of this physical space that we have here today. So we have a treat for you guys. You guys are all caffeined up and watered up and everything. So we have our special guest from Surrey, BC, a group, Youth for Change. So I guess I don't even need to introduce them, but I'm gonna, if you're seeing them for the first time. It's a group of young lesbian, gay, bisexual, and trans, and queer youth who want to make a difference in the lives of youth. So as I said, based in Surrey, BC, ranging from ages 13 to 21, they're using their experiences and knowledge to make society a better place for all youth. You guys gotta give them a round of applause again for just doing that, you know what I'm saying? So I'm going to invite Jen just to kind of introduce a little bit more of what they're going to be performing for you today.
Thank you. My name's Jen, and along with my wife Sylvie, we are the founders of Youth for Change, and one day we won't have to facilitate it because they'll do it for themselves. So on behalf of Youth for Change, I'd just like to say thank you for this invitation and to acknowledge that we are standing on unceded Coast Salish territory. And to say thank you to Women Transforming Cities, Rabble.ca, and everybody involved with Fierce Voices for this opportunity. So the piece is in 3 parts. We're going to begin with Shilpa, move on to the centre here with Caroline and others, and end with Anna. And I think we're just going to say, take it from here. On you go, Shilpa.
Instead of reprimanding him, my mother said, "What did you do to provoke him?" When my only defense was my mother whispering in my ear, "Honey, ignore him, don't rile him up. He just wants a reaction." As was my sole purpose that 6-year-old me existed, was to not rile up my brother. It starts when we're 6 and we grow up assuming the natural state of a man is a predator, and I must walk on eggshells as to not rile him up. Right, Mom? Rape culture is when through casual dinner conversation, my father says that women who get raped are asking for it. He says, "I see them on the streets of New York City with their short skirts and heavy makeup, asking for it." Rape culture is you were so ashamed, you thought it would be easier for your parents to find you dead than to say, "Hey, Mom and Dad, it wasn't my fault. I didn't ask for it. I never asked for this attention, to be a target, to be weak because I was born with 2 X chromosomes, to always walk in fear, to always look behind me, in front of me, next to me. I never asked to be the prey. I never wanted to spend the rest of my life being something someone feasts upon, a meal for the eternally starved. I do not want to hear about the way I taste anymore. I will not let you eat me alive." Rape culture is I shouldn't defend my friend when an over-aggressive frat boy has his hand on her ass because standing up for her body will make me a target. Women are afraid to speak up because they fear their own lives, but I'd rather take the hit than live in a culture of silence. I am told that I will always be the victim, predetermined by the DNA in my weaker, softer body. I have birthing hips, not a fighter's stance. I am genetically predispositioned to lose every time. Rape culture, she was probably just abused as a child, and he has some form of justification. And all I have are the things that provoked him. Proof of the past, like a tattoo I didn't ask for, but somehow I am permanently inked. Rape culture is, you weren't really raped, you were one of the lucky ones. Things could have been worse. It's been a month, dear, get out of bed. You'll have to get over it eventually. Don't let it ruin your life. Rape culture is when he touched you, he told you that no one would ever want you again, and you believed him. Rape culture is telling your daughters not to get raped instead of teaching your sons how to treat all women. That sex is not a right. You are not entitled to this. The worst possible thing you can call a woman is a slut, a whore, a bitch. And the worst possible thing you can call a man is a bitch, a pussy, a girl. The worst possible thing you can call a girl is a girl. And the worst possible thing you can call a guy is a girl. Being a woman is the ultimate rejection. It is the ultimate dismissal of strength and power. It is an absolute insult. But when I have a daughter, I will tell her that she is not an insult. When I have a daughter, she will know how to fight. I will look at her like the sun when she comes home with anger in her fist, because we, as human beings, we do not always have to take what we are given. They tell her not to fight fire with fire, only because they are afraid of her flames. When I have a daughter, I will teach her the value of the word no, so that when she hears it, she will not question it. My daughter, I am alive because of the fierce love I have for myself, and because my father taught me to protect that. I'm alive because my mother taught me to love myself. She taught me that I'm an enigma, a mystery, a paradox, an unfinished masterpiece, and I must love myself enough to see how I turn out. I'm alive because even beaten, voiceless, back against the wall, I knew that there was an ounce of me worth fighting for. I'm alive because I will teach my daughter, instead of covering herself up, I will show her how to be exposed. Because no is not convince me, no is not I want it. You call me pretty lady, beautiful girl, beautiful woman, but I am none of those things for you. I am an exploding light, and my daughter will be an exploding light, and you better cover your eyes.
This piece is called, Do You Ever Feel Worried That You're Drawing Attention to Yourself? I wrote this piece in response to the comments I've received, both online and offline. Because I don't follow conventional beauty standards all the time, have my hair every color of the rainbow, I often get told, you'd be pretty if
You didn't have half your head shaved.
You didn't have so many piercings.
you didn't wear such dark lipstick. I don't wear it for you.
You dressed normally. You didn't have tattoos.
You didn't wear so much eye makeup.
I don't wear it for you anyways.
You had natural hair color.
And then they find out that I'm a feminist. And the conversation goes something like this.
So you're a lesbian?
Being a lesbian and being a feminist aren't the same things.
Do you shave?
That's none of your business.
Do you hate all men?
No, feminism is about equality.
Which man hurt you?
I didn't need a man to hurt me to realize the importance of equality. And then, when they do find out that I'm a lesbian.
Can we have a threesome?
Does that mean you like all girls?
Does that mean you like all boys?
Can I watch?
No.
That's love.
Which man hurt you? It's probably just a phase.
You just haven't met the right guy yet.
Does that mean you have daddy issues?
You're too pretty to be a lesbian.
Is that supposed to be a compliment?
If you're going to date a butch woman, why not date a man?
I mean, duh, better sex.
Kinky stuff?
You're going to use a dildo. Why not have sex with the real thing?
Pregnancy.
Who is the man of the relationship?
The last time I checked, we were both women. Seriously?
How do you have sex?
Do you scissor?
It's not real sex.
You
just need a good fuck.
So this piece is called She. You can all hear me, yes?
Go to the mic.
Mike? Yes? Hello? Hi. Yeah, this piece is called She. She is not a white flag, not a compromise, a middle ground, a derivative of he. She comes from nothing and exists in her own right. Contrary to what you may have heard, she is not a neutral word. There are generations of women who have also heard this, and that is why when the word she is said, there may as well have been silence because the reaction is much in the same. She is a battle cry. She is a sentence, complete yet evoking so much more than what she has been demeaned to. She is a threat shot through the teeth, a secret weapon hidden from everyone, even those who hide within her bomb shelters. She is a word that so many have died for, been confined, liberated, comforted, and endangered by. Yet although she is far more powerful than the hatred that binds it to its belittled pedestal, she is not taken seriously. She is seen as an extension of a greater force. She is not heard as a shout. She is heard as a mumbled idea, a suggestion of maybe a theory or... She has been diluted by the idea that a woman is nothing more than the sum of her parts, and by the harsh tones that describe her. She is held hostage on the roofs of our mouths, along with what we really think and feel, kept secret with the truth. The word has been belittled, banned, burned, and beaten. It has been confined and defined. This is why when I say that I am she, I feel the passion that for so long she has been denied. Why when I proclaim myself as she, I proclaim that I am more than just the sum of my parts, as she is. She is a bullet shot through the teeth of the brave. She exists in her own right. I exist in my own right.
Awesome. So check this out. I know some of you guys are still a little shy to use the mic, and you're probably thinking, am I gonna ask a question or whatever? So I just want to actually hear some of your guys' voices. So I'm gonna test this little icebreaker out. So when I say youth for, you say change. Youth for, youth for. When I say fierce, you say voices. Fierce, fierce. All right. So maybe some of you guys will touch the mic then in a bit, right? So I'm going to introduce our next panelists. Everybody that's performing right now will be on the panel, or that performed earlier will be on the panel as well. So right now I want to introduce Kathryn Gwun-Yeen Lennon. She's a poet and a grad student and a food lover. Again, I got that from your website. Born and raised in Edmonton, Alberta, with Cantonese and Irish roots, but migrated west to Vancouver. She was a member of Edmonton's 2012 Slam Poetry Team and competed at the Canadian Festival of Spoken Word in Saskatoon. Also competed at the first Female Voices of the Prairie Slam in Saskatoon, and was part of the festival ensemble at the 2013 Victoria Festival of Spoken Word. Her work has been published in Rice Paper Magazine and screened at the 2010 Toronto Real Asian International Film Festival. She has worked on the environmental radio news stories with CJSR FM 88.5 Terra Infoma. Is that sounds like radio? So she's gonna hit us up with a little bit more spoken word too. So I'll give you the mic, or you wanna come up here? Yeah, so. Oh, okay, you know what? You're gonna see, they just collaborated already. That's what it's all about. We want to collaborate and, work together. So I'm going to give a little introduction to my girl Kim as well then. She goes by Kim Mortal, born to first-generation Filipino immigrants, parents, and raised with a strictly religious community. Who can relate to that? Yeah. It was ultimately through music that Kim Mortal was able to gain insight into her identity, her history, and the world outside her window. Kim Mortal is a Vancouver-based soul artist who weaves her deep vocals and bold lyricism into an eclectic tapestry of acoustic guitar, orchestra strings, and rhythmic piano melodies. Kim Mortal's hybrid of soul and rap transcends autobiography and courageous devils into large topics often untouched by popular music. So, with Kim Mortal and Kathryn, let's give them a warm welcome. They're doing a collaboration.
Hello. Thank you, Youth for Change. That was so inspiring. And everyone who went before, CHRISTIE Lee and Romila, amazing. We were feeding off that energy, and we thought this is such a great room, and there's such a collaborative energy in here, and storytelling keeps coming up again and again as a theme. So we thought it would be more fun if we each share a poem and then chat with each other to make it more of a dialogue. And then we'd also like to hear from you. So I'm going to start with a poem, and and we'll see how that goes. Grandmothers came up a little bit, so I want to bring my grandmother into the room. So this is a poem that's called Hunger is Inherited, and I wrote it about a time, or based on an experience of spending a few months visiting my grandmother who lives in Hong Kong, and going with this romantic notion of trying to learn about my culture and finding out what, at the age of 25, what it's like to be scolded by a grandmother. So this poem's partly about that. Cooking is confusing when the stomach wants something but the head doesn't hold words to describe what these ingredients will become. I dreamt of my mother's mother, saw her hands folding bamboo leaf triangles around sticky rice, squatting on a newspaper in our kitchen. I dreamt of my father's mother, saw her hands tipping tea, cream, sugar into cup perched on saucer the way her queen would take it, sitting by the window in her red dress, unpeeling craft singles. I've gone searching for stories in the kitchens of other mothers only to find them stuck like tea leaves to the sides of my cup and the bottom of my tongue. So I decide that I will cross the world to sit with her. And here I am, hoping that she'll speak to me, hoping that she'll teach me, hoping that she'll spill kitchen secrets of black beans, cornstarch, and soya sauce brought to a boil and thickened. But thick-skinned is what I learn instead. Have to thicken my skin so that her words will not hurt me. My grandmother's skin is paper-thin, blue veins raised like remnants of the Great Wall, and I wonder if the Great Wall of her stubbornness will ever fall. She falls more often now, has broken both hips, hit her head, the arches of feet that once squatted in the streets selling vegetables, selling bok choy, gai lan, choy sum. Her feet no longer hold her. But she is stubborn, and fear of falling is nothing compared to the fear of failing to feed a family. You see, she still remembers hunger. Now she gets up to go into the kitchen, and I follow, hoping that I will find kumquats preserved in salt after the new year, hoping that I will find secret maps tattooed onto the backs of my hands that will let me crisscross checkpoints, trading secrets for spices and spices for seeds. But her kitchen is small, and I'm too tall, and I don't know how to hold a knife, I don't know how much rice to cook for two, I don't know the names of vegetables. So she tells me, get out of the way. And from the sidelines, I watch her. I watch her rinse rice, slice wintermelon, crisscross green onions and ginger across fish belly. My belly has never known hunger, and yet I am afraid. I am afraid that when the last Saskatchewan farmer yields to Monsanto, we won't know how to feed our cities. I am afraid that when the grandparents are gone, our tongues will long for food that we no longer know how to name, and that the food we eat will feed us, but our taste buds will not flower. I'm afraid to tell her why I'm here. Afraid to say, grandmother, I'm hungry. I'm hungry for recipes for survival to help me hold out against the day-to-day doubts that come from not quite knowing the words to name my hunger. I'm hungry for the wisdom of women who carried the weight of the world on their hips. I'm hungry because if I have a daughter, I don't know what color her skin will be. I don't know what language she'll dream in. But I will need to teach her to trust her gut, to find the food that makes her heart and stomach fly. I will need to teach her that we are intricate intersections, that we are a marketplace full of squawking chickens and fishmongers and vegetables wet with morning dew, a constant conversation between east and west, a cartwheeling collision of worlds, so that on those days when the world might slip out from under her feet, we will retreat to the kitchen and put it back together. We will slice away hopelessness and despair, splice together storylines from opposite ends of the earth. We will blend geographies of ancestors into one dish, and until the helplessness turns into muscle movements that transform flour into dough, into bread, into substance. But I can't say this in Cantonese. Luckily, I love to eat. Now it's 6 o'clock and the fish is steamed, the neighbors are home and the news is on. So I pour the tea, I fill our bowls, and I turn to her and I say the only thing I can say in Cantonese. I say, "Po po sik fan." Eat rice, grandmother. And we eat. So Kim's going to do a poem, and then we're just going to have a conversation about our work. And at that point, maybe if you guys have questions, should we just flow into that? Okay. Oh, you have a moderator. Okay.
Yep. Hey, everybody. My name is Kim. I also go by Immortal. This next poem is called Creative Revolution, and it speaks to the term artist and how that can be synonymous with activist. I actually wrote it at first as a ranting status update, and then I was like, and then I restrained myself, took a step back, and wrote this poem. And that's the fuel that I get actually from the internet. Like, I save a lot of that energy that could be put towards getting deep and heated in those debates with a lot of white cis males, and saving that energy for my art. I also went to art school for 5.5 years at UBC. And I found a disconnect between community building and talking about social issues that directly affected myself and my community. And this is my wish, that people would use their art in a very intentional way to speak and to realize the validity in it. So this is called Creative Revolution. Rallies on the street and we're screaming revolution, organizing siege on this city. Blueprints and maps drawing out action plans, making turf where we'll take our stand. Capital letters on posters raised above our heads, photocopied handouts, flyers and pins, bandanas cover our noses and chins. Thump, thump goes my heart beating faster to our chants. Fists raised, megaphones shout, down with the system. Fuck racism, fuck capitalism, fuck sexism and homophobia. We are knocking oppression to the ground. Rallies on the street and they're screaming revolution, but sometimes I just want to chill in my room with my door shut and be in my own zone. Sometimes I just want to nod my head to my headphones, blasting 90s rap throwbacks, want to watch reruns of Art Attack, then watch some Janet Jackson so I can lip sync and whack, pretend I'm in a music video in my mirror, wearing thrift shop threads, shaving my head, licking spoonfuls of Nutella, laughing by myself, speaking gibberish, activist, none by which look activist. Rallies on the street, fists up, demand revolution, and I'm painting in my room, getting lost in the colors and shapes, erecting my tribal ancestry while doodling geometry, creating my own signs, figuring out what they mean to me, because sometimes art makes a lot more sense than words. On my canvas, the brown female body is given praise. Here I exalt her strength, because galleries and cinemas overplay blonde damsel in distress type modes, and women as creative producers are overshadowed. Rallies on the street, and we're screaming revolution, organizing siege on this city, and I'm in my room, feeling God while writing poetry, weaving words that do not wither but well up, wild wax poetically, the wind at my back whispering reminders of the wonder we once had, children of a God who drew simple lines from us to her truth. Rallies on the street and they're screaming revolution, and I'm in my room lying with my lover in silence, forehead to forehead, honoring the heart beneath thick and imperfect melanin, tracing curves and laugh lines, disrupting lies of what they told us love and beauty look like. Here we confess. Here we de-stress, practice honesty. My arm rests on the rise of her chest. See, we breathe dreams in, exhale answers to, where do you want to be in 5 years? Rallies on the street and they're screaming revolution and I'm secretly like, what? They're talking about the system like it's a machine. Mechanical parts with names. Why do I feel put to shame? Looks like I'm a poli-sci book too short of understanding. Your unwillingness to break it down is only elitist handling, but I do not have to speak in your language. I don't have to conceptualize change. I'm not a broken record you can play. Not about to repeat your lines. I've got my own knots to untie, like how I have internalized your narrow paradigms. Your activism says this art is a waste of time. Well, this art holds my back. This is my spine, and my creativity is never invalid. It's in this place that I allow room for reflection and tears, space for correction to flip my fears and silence, because this world can be so damn loud. So I will, in fact, invent my own language, grounded in silence, in being okay with not always knowing. And in this all, I will give time to finding my own voice. And that in itself is pretty fucking revolutionary. My creativity is a revolution. Your creativity is a revolution. Thank you.
Yeah, well, what we'll do is I just want to introduce, we have 2 additional panel speakers from Youth for Change. So Anna Westhaver, just raise your hand, or I don't know, just so that people can see you. And then Shilpa Naraya, she'll be, you guys are able to ask them questions as well. But I'll invite Women's Transforming Cities volunteer, Christine, to come and moderate this portion.
Wow, this is actually the perfect height. That's never happened before. Thank you so much for those poems. They're amazing. So I'd like to invite anyone in the room to ask a question. And of course, you're tweeting, or if you're on the live stream and you want to ask a question as well, then we'll hopefully get those. Did you want to do it? Yeah. Totally fine. Yeah, we have time if you want. All right, so we're going to take a quick pause in questions, and they'll do that. So I'll be back.
So, Kathryn. So let me turn on one at a time. I think it's both. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Welcome.
So, welcome. This is not awkward. Yeah. I really liked your poem.
I liked yours.
Thank you.
Good.
I have some questions that I kind of formulated. So you talk about your grandmother and your family.
Mm-hmm.
Through that poem, I really sensed an emotion of longing and nostalgia. And I saw the kitchen as a symbol. And I was wondering if you could speak to the kitchen or hunger or food and how it directly relates to your experience as a woman of color. And as a woman that is a part of this cultural diaspora, which I totally relate to as Filipino Canadian, being born here, having that hunger to connect to your culture, not having that access to those histories. I was wondering if you could just speak to that through that poem.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I think that those, definitely like the kitchen and hunger and food, for the people in the room who know me, know that those are a big part of my life. And I think in terms of talking about spaces that we inhabit as women, I think that, or just as people, I think that
really see the kitchen as the heart. What CHRISTIE Lee was saying about the like table talks and time for tea. I think, at least growing up in my household, the kitchen table was where we had all our conversations, and we didn't rush to like clean up after dinner. We would sit around and chat, and I think that's one of those spaces where the storytelling and claiming space for ourselves starts, right? It's where you start to be able to articulate those things. And I think in terms of the longing and the hunger in relation to migration or diaspora identity, yeah, I grew up in Edmonton, and it's not that easy to access. If we wanted to get ingredients for Cantonese cooking, you had to go down to Chinatown on weekends. And so it's not as easy as Vancouver. So I mean, that link between land through food and identity and history and traditional knowledge and all those things, I think is very strong, and it's very hard to, hard to translate and hard to adapt to a new place, but is really important and like very universal. And yeah, I think that. Yeah, I don't know. It's part of creating new ways forward, is trying to figure out how do you feed that hunger, and like how do you cook, and how do you access ingredients you need, whether that's through growing food. Yeah.
Cool. I was also thinking about how a lot of us here in the room identify as female and woman identified. And speaking as a woman of color, as a queer woman of color, and coming into my identity with realizations that I connect to this community. How does that come into play in your feminism, and how has that not come into play in feminist quote unquote spaces for you?
In terms of connecting to communities?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, and I would ask the same of you afterwards too, because I think, yeah, definitely when I first encountered feminist theory in my first year of university, I was like with the class until we got to the women of color, like third wave feminism, and then I was like, oh, this feels kind of strange. We've been talking about feminism for women, and then all of a sudden, women doesn't include all women. So I think that pushed me away from feminism for a long time. It was like, okay, I gotta go figure out like race thing for a while. And I think there's a lot of different ways of being a feminist, and I think something I think about in that poem is like the strength of women. It doesn't have to come with a certain set of theory behind it. There's different ways of being a strong person, right? Mm-hmm. That we might find examples of that from our own families, our own relationships. Yeah. What about for you?
What was my question again?
Where do you find that in the relationship between your feminism and the communities you're part of?
Yes.
And the art you make?
Yeah. I really connected to Romila's keynote, and how merely existing as a complex human being, as we all are, is pretty revolutionary. I create my art, and it's how I process my experience. And I happen to be lesbian, identified, woman of color, part of the diaspora, not connected to histories so intimately. So I connected to your nostalgia and wanting to embrace that side of me, because essentially in the long run, it's actually about getting to know yourself and like knowing all sides and facets of yourself. So it's been through art that I've been able to learn. It's been through hip hop, through rap, which is essentially storytelling from the ground, that I've been able to hear other people's real raw stories, but then at the same time be like, okay, how am I connected to this? How am I not connected to this? And so it's interesting because I think I wake up every day and I'm like, what is fueling me is art. But it's funny because like that poem that I just shared, Creative Revolution, I created that in a time when I was really involved in like social activist, community-oriented, like direct action protests, et cetera, that kind of thing. And a huge part of my identity, right, being an artist, was not practiced in those spaces. And wow, totally lost my train of thought. But it's been, oh yeah, so basically the journey has been in accepting myself like holistically, like, and it's through art that I'm able to claim these identities and also tell my stories, so retell them, claim your narrative, that are not always gonna be, you know, reflected in quote unquote feminists that you see out there, or, you know, queer folks that you see out there. Like there's always more, and so it's so true, like getting those numbers out, encouraging other people to share their story. I think that's something intrinsic in my art. I've been told that some of my raps or some of my poems are like calls to action, which is, okay, I'll take that, sure. But I just really believe in that, in the power of people just coming out with their real stories, and that not being invalidated, you know, besides stats or science or academic jargon, et cetera, which I've, you know, which we happen to be in those spaces because we are interested in making change. But those spaces happen to be, even like panels like this is great, but there's also tea time, right? Like making a song with a fellow, you know, friend, and like that's making a poem, like that group poem, boom. Like there's so many ways to be an activist and to propel that change.
I wanted to ask you, we were chatting about this before and this came up in your poem, but just on the idea of loudness and silence. I think we tend to say like we need to raise our voices, we need to be loud, we need to be heard, and yeah, I was just wondering what your thoughts are on loudness and silence.
Ooh. So, growing up, I would always hear my dad go, speak up, talk louder, you know? And that was like, that's also like something that my parents, being immigrants to this country and feeling that silence, they wanted us kids to be loud and to be bold and to get 100% in classes, right? Which is it's definitely something real in marginalized communities where, you know, that is everything. That is everything. Getting your education is everything, you know, like being a leader is everything because it's everything to your history that has been marginalized. I just turned my mic off. I'm alive. And again, I have lost my train of thought. What was the question?
Loudness and silence. And then you turned off your mic.
Yes. Oh my God. That's so true. Only a poet would notice that.
Just sit there. Wave to the webcast.
Hi, webcast. And so yeah, like rap and hip hop has been that way in which I could really be loud and be bold, and that has been a huge inspiration for me. And it's rap and hip hop is also a way in which I can claim my masculinity, which has been repressed throughout my lifetime. But then at the same time, I'm really like I experience discomfort, like being subtle and being okay with not having to yell or not having to be like, this is what I believe, right? And I've been in activist spaces where I have come with that anger, and there is value in that. But there's also something to embrace in the silence and to be like, okay, this is okay, this is okay, this is powerful. Even feeling that pressure is also part of this culture of being overproductive, like produce something. Like I experienced that as an artist and as an activist, whatever, right? And learning to just take a step back and self-care, huge. So, How about for you? Because I found that your poem and my poem, I have this volume, and you really embrace that soft, like that calmness, but also this like lack of trying to assert or impose, which I really admire in your style of poetry and the way you deliver. I was wondering how that speaks to, I guess, your experience. Yeah.
Well, something I was thinking about actually before was how to be stealthy in your communication when you're trying to get your voice heard. And I think art is really powerful because you move people. And if you can make people laugh or cry or have goosebumps or make them sad, you then open a space where people are going to listen to you. And I think part of that is, like part of the volume thing is you don't always have to be, if you only use the same volume all the time or you use the same emotion all the time, people won't listen to you all the time. So if you can shake that up, I think it helps you be more effective. Like whatever type of media you're using, it's just variety.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of my own work, it's more comfortable. Like it's finding, in terms of whatever media you use, you have to speak with the voice that's your authentic voice, right? That's comfortable to you.
Yeah.
I think we're going to open it up to have the Youth for Change.
Yeah, I think that was amazing. And it was, keeping in that theme of like tea time, I feel like we had a great opportunity to sort of like experience a little mini tea time here. So we'd like to open it up to sort of the rest of the room and also anyone on the webcast. So do we have any questions for really any of the speakers on the panel or who were keynotes before? Just hands up. Oh, are they going to do, okay. Cool. So we're going to invite Youth for a Change to do a bit of a little intro for themselves as well.
Okay. Well, my name is Shilpa Narayan, and before I just begin, I'd just like to thank all of you for being here today and giving Youth for a Change this platform to start conversations and to challenge our beliefs and challenge what we see out there. And I'm 19 years old. I am a gender, sexuality, and women's studies major at SFU. So it's nice to be, doing things within the university as well with my activism. I identify as a queer intersectional feminist, and I'm also currently working on my mental health advocacy, like Anne, so it was awesome to hear that. Mental health advocacy and the intersections with social justice and violence against women specifically. It was just today I decided to share my piece, Rape Culture, with all of you today, because a huge thing that I've taken from many years of my activism and just starting to really get into the world of feminism is conversation education. I always tell everyone that I meet that those two things are the most powerful thing. If you're able to have a conversation with someone, share how you feel, share what you want to learn, and learning is a huge thing for myself as well. I try and go to every event that I possibly can. I go to guest lectures within our university. I go, even within my regular lectures every day, I try and ask myself questions, people around me questions, because I feel like that's how we will move forward, challenging our beliefs that we have grown up with, and that, we continue. So that's just a little bit about, why I'm here, what I'm doing. And again, thank you, all of you. And if you have any questions, please feel free.
Yeah, likewise, thank you. Hi, my name is Anna Westhaver. I'm also an intersectional, sex-positive, lesbian feminist, so on and so forth. I'm 16. I've been with Youth for a Change for 3 years now, and it's the first activist group that I have belonged to, and it's really, having been quite young when I joined, I've really grown up as a feminist and as an activist through the past 3 years. And I have identified as a feminist for about 10 years because my mom raised me to, fight for myself, and she raised me on subscriptions to Bitch and, sex education. It was a great childhood. It was a feminist childhood. I loved it. Yeah, in addition to kind of my queer activism and feminism, I also am expanding my scope to mental health, having been somebody who has struggled with that and who's learning to kind of love herself after that. Yeah, self-love. Also, don't know what else to say because I learned that I was a panelist like 2 hours ago. So yeah, questions, please.
Awesome. All right. Questions in the room or? Yes.
Hi, sorry, I'm going to try to figure out how to word this properly. So I find like in everyday life, sometimes it's difficult talking about feminism when you have someone who, although they believe in equality, doesn't totally identify as a feminist. And so all the headway you're making in your conversations, like, you know, when you're talking about how you don't like being catcalled on the street, if someone says, you know, like I take it as a compliment, and then someone kind of takes that dissent as kind of the end of the argument and assume it makes you angry. And at the point you try to kind of explain to them, you know, that they're entitled to feel that way and I'm entitled to feel differently. But in a movement like feminism, when you have so many dissenting voices, it can take away from the cohesion of the movement and kind of make it hard to move towards tangible change. But at the same time, you know, like I'm a woman, but I'm not representative of every woman. And we all have these intersectional identities. And so how do you reconcile the need for cohesion with the ability of people to identify and express themselves however they want to?
Anyone want to take this question? Yep, anyone? Yep. Oh, Anne?
I think feminism isn't a monolith. I think there's a real push for we all have to believe in the same thing. You know, some people think that, and I don't think that's true. And I think often the dissenting voices are what challenge us. They're what has challenged me the most. Like I was saying, I've said often recently, like the internet has been my school of feminism. You know, but everyone is where they are. Everyone's on their own journey and they're figuring out their own stuff. And you got to find your balance of like, am I going to take the time to explain it to this person, or am I just going to tell them that they're wrong and how much am I investing in them? But, you know, I do kind of worry about the emphasis on like all feminists have to believe the same thing, because I think that can really push marginalized voices even further off to the side.
Thanks for that. Does anyone want to add anything else? Yeah.
I'll add. I really agree with what you have to say, because I've actually had multiple conversations with a lot of people that I know that that openly do tell me, oh, I don't identify as a feminist. Can you tell me more? So I do take that time to, talk to them about, what feminism is, the movement. But at the same time, it is, taking the fact, acknowledging that they do have a different perspective that they're coming with. And at the end of the day, again, I always go back to education, but it's, trying to even take a smallest thing and trying to be like, okay, like this is what I have to say, but then also acknowledging, okay, you also have something to say. Because I feel like oftentimes we become so passionate into what we want to preach and what we want to talk about that we really get into it, and then it's almost as though the other individual is like, oh, hey, but I have something to say as well. So always trying to, come to that, not necessarily middle ground, but being able to hear each other out and talk about what you have, what you have to say and what that person has to say. And I always tell myself to pick your battles, oftentimes as well. Talk to people that you want to talk to people that you don't want to talk to. But because even out of those things, you might find something that you'd never imagined before. So yeah.
On the note of pick your battles, sorry, I swear to God, this is the last thing I'm going to say. You don't owe anyone an argument, which has been really hard for me to learn on the internet, but you don't owe anyone anything. If they come to you and they're mad because you don't want to explain something to them, you don't want to take the time to, accept their challenge or whatever, got to take care of yourself first.
Kind of feeding off what Shilpa was saying about education, I really think that there needs to be education about feminism to the general society, because society thinks in generalizations, which I firmly believe that generalizations kill everything. Like, they're just terrible for society. But lots of people assume that feminism is all about man-hating, and I've heard countless women say, oh, I'm an egalitarian, or I'm a humanist, or whatever, and I'm just kind of like, feminism is about equality, but we're not taught that. We're kind of taught by greater media, or the mass media, that, oh, feminism is about this, this, and this. It's against men, it's for, like, matriarchy and bra burning. So you get these people who are like, I don't want to be associated with that, so therefore I'm not a feminist. They don't really take time to educate themselves, and in some cases they don't want to be educated because they're just so indoctrinated into the society that says, yeah, feminist is bad, feminist is against things. But you kind of have to focus on, in every movement, what the movement is for rather than against. Positive force.
Romila?
Yeah, I'd love to actually add to that. I think that's a really important point. I just want to say that, and this is something that Kathryn mentioned, and something that I experienced too when I first came across feminism, was I didn't see myself in it. And I think it's still important for us to be able to critique feminism as women and for us to evolve it into something better, because there are still some problems with the feminism that we have, and you mentioned this, Anne, as well, in the sense where it's being led predominantly by white women, and it is very ethnocentric still, and it is still marginalizing of the LGBTQA plus community, and this is something that we still need to be able to critique ourselves on, for us to be able to evolve into a more inclusive community, but that yes, the education around it needs to come first. I absolutely agree, but that I think it's not something that we can be able to define once and for all. And if there are women who are coming up who are saying, you know, I enjoy catcalling or all of these things that we seem to be fighting against, that's fine, but what does that have to do with your opinion? I mean, they have a right to that, but so do you have a right to your opinion as well. So yeah, this idea that we have multiple voices, I think we still need to be able to find that balance in feminism, because there's one really majority of a louder voice that's being spoken right now. And I think it's important for us to, the reason why I feel like we still have some women who are so hesitant to claim this identity is because of that issue, that they don't see themselves in it, that they hesitate to see, and that's what I think we're doing right here, right now. And look at how eclectic this panel is, holy shit. Like, this is great, and that's a great question.
Thank you. Christy?
I just wanted to make a comment and share something. I just wanted to seriously raise my hands to the brothers and sisters that are, from the lesbian and gay and transgender communities, because within your poems and within some of the words that you shared here today, I felt like the pain. You know what I mean? Like, you have to face all these battles, being a woman, being someone of color. And I just wanted to share, from my teaching, what I know as a gay or lesbian person. We call them in our culture two-spirited, because I'm sure you've heard it before, but for other people in the room who haven't heard, what two-spirited means is they have a gift. They have the balance of, connecting to a man and connecting to a woman. And within our First Nations culture, we totally respect those people. Like, you guys are so gifted. So I just wanted to raise my hands to all of you and anyone else in the room. Good. That's so good. It makes my heart so happy to see you up here, Youth for Change, and being proud of who you are, and so young. Because, I've had friends in my childhood who were afraid, to come out and be like, hey, I'm a lesbian. You know what I mean? So props to everyone for sharing their story. And you are all very gifted, and I honor all of you.
Any other questions from the room? Oh, it's right there.
Thank you so much, everyone. It's really inspiring to be in this room. Following up on this idea of different ways of living and being a feminist and intersectionality, I would like to ask the panelists and also everyone, because I know there's so much knowledge here, different ways in which they live, or in which you can be a feminist in your everyday life if you don't feel that media is your outlet. Just other examples in which in your personal relations and everyday lives you do feminism and you live a feminist way of being in the world as self-identified women, but also as allies.
I'll speak to that. So yeah, before I identified as feminist, woman of color, queer, I identify as artist. I found a lot of empowerment within just making art, you know, and putting your own shit out there and like feeling proud about it. So I was sitting in art history class, like second year university, and it was contemporary modern art history class. And just like what you said, Kathryn, about like when you were in a women's studies class, and then they're like, okay, these are women of color. Same thing kind of happened in this art history class, and they showed some of the artwork of performance artist Coco Fusco, who's amazing. Please write her name down. I don't know if she's still doing performance art, but she's Latina American, and she creates a lot of art around her own experience. The first piece I saw of her was basically referencing how people of color were taken from exotic countries and brought into America and put in a zoo. And so her performance piece was basically replicating that in different places. So I remember they were showing that in this art history class, and I just started bawling. I was like, holy shit, like for real, like crying overhead. It was dark, good on me, no one saw me. But what I'm saying basically is within art itself, there are histories that are not talked about. A lot of these concerning marginalized communities, women, queer folks, creating all of this art, we don't see it. We have to dig. And so that's the same thing, right, with rap and hip hop. There's a huge history of female MCs, but I find it pretty strategic that the mainstream is only focusing on Iggy Azalea, right? That's her name? Yeah, so, you know, those things, right? But in my women's studies class, my fourth year, we were invited to write a paper and present it. And so what I did was I was like, I'm gonna interview females in rap locally. And so through that, I was able to interview Kia Kadiri, JB, the First Lady, who was part of First Lady's crew with CHRISTIE, and Didi Cascade, and also just like learning about other awesome MCs that don't even identify, like they don't identify with a gender binary of like, I'm female and I'm in hip hop, you know, like, yeah. So it's just like learning about these histories is huge. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Would anyone like to add to that?
Yes. I don't know if this is a setup because Kara's my roommate, but in answer to that question, something that Carolina and I and a few other friends have been talking about is what it's like to be a woman cyclist, and it's made me really reflect on the parallels between being a cyclist and being a feminist, and there's, I think, a really interesting metaphor there. If you think about bike lanes, and we know bikes are allowed to be on the road as long as they stay in this little, like, tiny marginal lane on the side of the road, and if you go out of the lane, it's your fault, and if you get hit, it's your fault, and if you're biking at night without a light on, it's your fault, you know. So I think there's a lot of parallels there between how cyclists move around the city and use public space and how it feels to be a woman moving around the city. But I think in terms of daily practice, this reflecting on this made me realize that I do find getting on my bike makes me feel really independent and like very empowered, because I can get wherever I want to on my own steam, and I can leave when I want, and I can, you know, I think historically too, right? That's when they were like, oh no, women have to wear pants now because they're gonna bike around. Like, it's dangerous. So I think that, yeah, that's a really a way to model that. I think also in connection to the last question of how do you convince people who don't believe in feminism, I think a great way is just to model it. You know, sometimes it's not worth wasting your words. Sometimes you just live it and show people how much fun you're having. So along those lines, actually, just a little plug. If anybody's interested in biking and you're not that confident, or you want to just be with, you know, other women cyclists, we have a group that's meeting tomorrow to do a little bike ride. So you could talk to me afterwards, and we're gonna bike to Hogan's Alley, actually. Yeah. So yeah, come chat with me or Caro or Emma over there.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I'm getting the nod that we need to cut off the rest of the discussion, but thank you so much for the questions and the great answers that were provided. We do have gifts to give as a token of our appreciation. I feel like by saying this, a magical person will come. Oh, there she is, with gifts for our speakers. So thank you very much.
All right, so who wants to hear more music from Kim Mortal? So we're gonna hear from her. She's gonna give us a little more from her latest album, Sincerity, plug. I think Kathryn and Kim have some CDs available, is that it? Book, yeah. Well, anyways, we're all friends here. We're all adding each other on Twitter, on Facebook. So, you know, again, this is such an energetic room and open room. Kathryn already invited you to a bike ride, you know? And the best thing about it, too, is that we're all, you know, we're locals, even though Anna's from Toronto. She's staying with a friend that she met online. But it's all about mentors and role models. And we're literally like an arm's reach away. So, again, I just want to remind you guys that we're all here for each other. As they said, you know, it's all about support. So Kim's going to get on the mic. And I do have a couple of reminders. But just in case if some of you guys are on a time crunch, we do want to ask you to fill out the evaluations, just so how we can improve, and any suggestions. If you want to be a speaker or you want to be more involved in Women Transforming Cities, we're always about open space and ideas and just more collaborations. So just in case you guys have to leave, you know, earlier than Kim's performance, we please would like that evaluation back. So without further ado, Kim Mortal.
Just like that, I pop out of this seat and I have an electric ukulele on my body. This is Lucy. She's white and fits in my arms. And she was expensive, so I hope that you love her. All right, so, I am gonna present like something new to you guys. This is a new song. If I trip on the words, this is a new song. And this is a remix actually of a song that came out on my album that was released last December. It's my debut album called Sincerity. I wrote a lot of the songs on the cold linoleum floor of locked bathrooms when I was taking breaks from studying university life. And so I hope you like it. Thank you. Basically, the song, I like explaining my songs a little bit. This song is kind of like about my experience as a woman of color in music. And yeah. I'm brushing by heaven's shoulder, I hope I'm getting bolder, bolder. But as I'm brushing by heaven's shoulder, I hope I'm getting bolder, bolder. My heaven on earth is broken. I wanna give birth to words unspoken, but I'm choking. Everybody's trying to be seen on screen. Force feed me a scene. I'm just trying to intervene. Too deep for the mainstreams, too street for Ivy Leagues, university, robbing money, but I'm still buying coffee, no cream, telling him in my color of melanin. Got soul, but not a whole lot of green. Too few stop to think. They're busy building the machines, accumulate to sense, common sense to me to pen these rhymes nightly. I'm tired of the same old shit. Cookie cut that ish, copy paste generic. Locate my remix in my wordplay, twist, turn the page, study my resistance. Brushing by heaven's shoulder, I hope I'm getting bolder, bolder. But as I'm brushing by heaven's shoulder, I hope I'm getting bolder, bolder. They call a girl a bitch, loud mouth, so rude. It's a man's world, she works harder than the dudes. Do your mathematics, stats on the masses, equations she can't claim on her taxes. Mom's broke back is collapsing from kissing ass for cash, cause her time is ticking. Murdered and missing, too many women, too many queens dead on the scene. Never forgotten, forever missed. I remember you on my canvas. Paint your crown, miss. Loud and proud, misunderstood. Wish this world flipped attitudes didn't exclude more gratitude. Indigenous lives misconstrued. Truth is, I used to pray to a white God. Now I head nod, churches in the booth. Brushing by heaven's shoulder, I hope I'm getting bolder, bolder. But as I'm brushing by heaven's shoulder, I hope I'm getting bolder, bolder. Why does it seem like I can never finish? Like I'm only offered glimpses, scratching on the surface. If I'm worth it, don't mean I'm perfect. Pushing on a limit, I ain't trying to stay in it. They say you're ungrateful, you think too far ahead. Don't you see what's right in front of you? Use your head. I use my heart instead. I never traded for a ticket to your Walking Dead. I chop my heart on every track, watch it overflow. Blood, sweat, tears on my mic at the show. Could drown any motherfucker in my ill flow. They'll just say I'm really good for a girl though. No place in the books written. Out of history's overlooked by crooks, so I keep spitting. For all the aliens that rise above the clones. And sometimes I feel alone, but the stage is my home. Brushing by heaven's shoulder, I hope I'm getting bolder, bolder. See, as I'm brushing by heaven's shoulder, I think I'm getting bolder, bolder. But as we're brushing by heaven's shoulder, I know we're getting bolder, bolder. It's so ultra cool because when I was singing that song, I was looking at this white male face right there in the sculpture. And I was like, I'm getting bolder. Okay. All right, so this next track is called Dying in Flight. And I wrote it basically because I was tired of people speaking to each other through the language of academic jargon and just not being real. And so the chorus goes, talk to me, just talk to me, calm down. And I think it's really powerful when people level with each other and, you know, come down. So this is called Dying in Flight.
I think that's too low. I'm just gonna bring it up a little bit. Okay, cool. All right. Thanks. There you go. I hold glass to my heart, check for hidden agendas. Remember my start when I move up higher. I refuse to celebrate if I step before this heart. And I won't celebrate if it means I drown this heart. Talk to me, just talk to me, calm down. Talk to me, just talk to me, come down. Talk to me, just talk to me, calm down. Talk to me, just talk to me. Talk to me, just talk to me, calm down. And I can trick myself with all this motion so that I'm dying in flight. My wings are cuffed to labels now. Though I'm a free bird, I still chase their words. Because I've lost and I fought and forgot my own. Talk to me, just talk to me, calm down. Talk to me, just talk to me, come down. Talk to me, just talk to me, come down. Talk to me, just talk to me, yeah. Talk to me, just talk to me, come down. This is where you clap, you get involved. Please stay on rhythm, guys. Help me out here. I'll just keep this running so you get the rhythm. Talk to me, yeah, ooh. Talk to me. See me through my scarcity of words these days. They so easily drip off the lips of gibberish spitting kids with degrees, but they're more like below zero, regurgitating theories, trying to be heroes. So for the subtext, I check for this. It's always there, begging for attention. Conceit is in the air. We breathe big heads and big sis, growing on narcissists. Even though our fists are up, y'all can still power trip it up. Even when you make fine points about a system corrupt us, something is wrong if you can't say what's up. So what up? Talk to me, just talk to me, calm down. You wanna come with me in the chorus? Talk to me, just talk to me, calm down. Yep. Talk to me, just talk to me, calm down. Talk to me, just talk to me, yeah. Talk to me, just talk to me, calm down. Yeah, give it up for yourselves. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Can we give another round of applause for Kim? Like, what a way to kind of wrap up the performances and everything, right? So we're at actually in good timing at 4:30 right now. So just quick announcements and some reminders. They mentioned earlier the Wise Practice Awards. So the nominations deadlines is June 15th. And so you can find more information on the Women Transforming Cities website. We want to highlight examples of great work being done by and for young women with a special awards stream for Aboriginal program. We hope you will submit your favorite youth project as an award. We accept nominations from anywhere in the world. Again, see the website for more details. And as I mentioned too, this isn't going to be the last place that we see each other. There is going to be another event on June 18th at Mount Pleasant Neighborhood House at 5:30 if you do want to get together and discuss more. And as well, another Women Transforming Cities Cafe, which I know dates are really important to us busy people. So July 6th at the Roundhouse Community Center at 6:30. And evaluations, of course, feedback is always good, so please take the time. And the people that are online, you can always send a tweet or an email to Women Transforming Cities as well. And I gotta say thank you, salamat, for everybody that's been involved in this event. It's one of those things where it's like it's ending already, and it's like evaluation 2-day event, right? So we want to say thank you to our community partners, SFU and Mount Pleasant Neighborhood House. Of course, our media booths that will still be out there. So please remember, if you haven't visited them yet, please do. Our volunteers, our panelists, our artists, thank you for spending some time with us today. And again, for you guys. So again, let's just give it a fierce voices, a round of applause for all of us here. So I can't wait to communicate with all the new followers and hear about, hey, I'm starting a blog, or I'm gonna do an op-ed, and you know what? We're here to support all you guys. So thank you so much on behalf of Women Transforming Cities, as well as Rabble.com. As we will see each other again. Anybody else want to say anything from the people that are wearing beads? Oh, who do you give the evaluations to? The people wearing beads. So again, we have all your contacts because you guys registered, but specifically if you'd like to get involved, or if there's some special request that you want to be a speaker or your organization wants to be involved, please put your contact information there too. So again, my name is Sammy Jo, and we're done today. Bye-bye.